When I went to sleep last night, I wanted to wake up and make a video. I asked questions on Instagram to answer for you, and then I woke up this morning and was like, I don't feel good. Like, and if I don't feel good, I'm gonna be on camera and I'm not gonna be in the mood the way I wanna be to make a video. But I'm deciding to push past all of that, just go ahead and no makeup for today. So you're gonna see me turn red as I get any little bit of hot. That's like one of my biggest insecurities. But in the name of actually just filming a Q&A and not putting that pressure on myself, we're gonna do it anyway. The first thing I need to do now that I'm dressed is go outside, and I'll take you with me because I got quite a few questions about how the native like front yard transformation is going. So let's talk about it. Will do the best not to show you the front of my home, but looking for my sunglasses. But we'll go out there and I'll show you all the work that I've done because I am very proud of it. Hello. There we go. In case you didn't know, you probably need to follow me on TikTok because that's where I've been talking about this the most. But the people who used to live here don't even really have grass in the front yard. It almost seems like the people who live here went around and spread weed seeds. Like, there's no grass, it's just random weeds, but they're kind of in patches, or at least they were. Some of them are native, and I've been very careful to pick those out and keep those, so I'll show you a few of those. But some of them are downright invasive and really dangerous to the ecosystem. So the goal is basically to remove all of those invasive species, replace them with native pollinator plants, and also some plants that birds like. I'm trying to do a little bit of both, although pollinators were my main driving force at first. Another important part about the front yard and how it looks is I should have solarized, killed the weeds before I planted anything, but I got really excited in the spring and started planting plants that I was excited about, so now they're growing amongst some of the weeds. I'll show you. You can hear the birds out here. Oh. Why do I feel like everybody's being quiet and leaving when I come outside? No, I do think I did scare away that butterfly. I think she'll probably be back. They come and visit this flower a lot, and I've gotten quite a few good videos of it. But when I started with this front yard, there was nothing but weeds here, and everything you see that is not just ground level, I planted. And is all native to Central Texas, not just Texas, with the exception of I think 1 or 2 plants that I got a little bit duped on, but it's okay because they're not invasive and they do really well here. One of those is actually right behind me. This one is called Jerusalem sage, and it's not native, but it does really well for our pollinators and our climate, and it's not invasive, so I'm okay with it. And I have a butterfly bush, which is actually the plant that is doing the best in the yard right now, and I just have to show you. Oh, this is me trying to kill the grass, but I also did it here, and it's already growing back. I don't know what we're gonna do with that, but this is the butterfly bush, the star of the yard right now, that has just exploded. And pollinators also love it. It's not invasive, but it's growing wonderfully. So that's this. I won't bore you for too long with talking about plants in my yard, but I will tell you. Oh God, my neighbor just came outside, and they don't know I'm a vlogger, but they do know me, and now I'm scared. I'm gonna go back inside, and I'll come back in a minute. My neighbor, it's really cool because they're really cool. I just haven't worked up the courage to tell them what I do for a living yet. And they're also an interracial gay couple that bought the house literally next door to us, and he was just going to take his dog on a walk. I think he went the other way though, so the coast should be clear. But like I was saying, most of the plants in the front yard were invasive, but a couple of the weeds happen to be native. So basically, before I decided to pull up any of the weeds, I used this plant ID app. For a long time, I wouldn't say that I was married to any plant ID app because I tried them all. I would go back and forth with some, No, picture this is the best plant ID app. I know iNaturalist is used for scientific purposes, and I'll also upload things to there when it's things growing in nature. But for the purposes of identifying plants quickly and getting the information you need, picture this is the best plant ID app, I will say. So I ID'd all of them before I pulled up any of them, and I found one that's actually really cool. It's called bindweed, and it's a part of the morning glory family. So it blooms in the morning and then it's dead by the evening, and then it comes back every day. Now, just for the sake of showing you all of my plants, we'll do a quick little montage. Okay, I have to tell you, it's early morning, but it's hot out there already. I'm sweating. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, see, remember when I told you I was gonna get red? And it's my biggest insecurity, but this is I was outside for what? 10 minutes talking to you. Okay, speaking of sweaty and stinky, time for deodorant. My aloe friend in my bathroom back there is too big for itself. Like, not too big for its pot because it's still sprouting babies, but this pot is not heavy enough to hold it the way it's growing over the pot. So it's being held up by the mirror currently. Now, if you know me, you know what deodorant I'm gonna use. Native, of course. I've been using Native deodorant for years, even before they had the plastic-free packaging, and I still have this one because it's the only vegan, cruelty-free, aluminum-free, paraben-free deodorant that works for me. So I always, let me show you, I'll show you the drawer. How many I just always like to have on hand. This is my drawer with all of my Native deodorants. I really like this one. This is the one I'm using today, the eucalyptus and mint. But I also love that they have an unscented and one for sensitive skin. I'm honestly not normally the biggest fan of scent. We're just gonna do a double coat today. Wearing a tank top. Yeah, I'm normally not the biggest fan of scent. That's why I have multiple of these unscented ones. But I also do find that I like the eucalyptus and mint. I like minty smells, sometimes citrusy smells. Like way back in here, have from when the tubes were a circle. I have so many. My friends literally come over like, do you have any Native deodorant that I can have? Bailey, she always does that to me. Anyway, if you're in the market for a better deodorant, I personally think Native is the best deodorant out there for people who care about the planet. So if you want to get some for yourself, you can use my link at the top of the description and my code Shelby22 to get 20% off your first purchase at Native. That is available site-wide, but only for a limited time, so stock up and save. Okay, now let's talk about this because I got quite a few questions about my tattoo. I went to Mexico recently and got to learn a lot about turtle habitats, how climate change and just like habitat destruction in general is really obviously endangering the turtles. That's why the green sea turtle has been endangered for so long. But I just got really interested in the ecology of it all. I'm a bit of an ecology nerd in general. So I decided I wanted to get a tattoo because my like long-term goal is to have this arm kind of be a sleeve. As you can see, it's where I've been putting all of my recent tattoos. Anyway, so I decided that I would get a tattoo and it looks like this. Hold on, let's flick this light on. Yeah, there you go. Someone asked if we could get a still of it, so this is not a still, this is definitely motion picture. But that's it. It is a little bit dark. I do think I'm gonna have my tattoo artist here in Austin add some white just to kind of dye down the shading a little bit. If I had thought about it a little bit more, I would have got it a little bit bigger and then the shading wouldn't have felt so dark. And I already have a plan for the next 3 things I want to add to this arm, all things that are native to Texas. And I think that's kind of the vibe I'm going to go from here on out. I kind of, obviously am in my native to Texas caring about ecosystems phase, but also not a phase. So today when I'm recording this is a Friday and I once a month take a Friday off so that I can just do self-care things. And well, self-care things, but also like health things. This all started because I have a liver disease and I was going to get regular checkups and like treatments and things like that. And I decided to just take that day and make it a self-care day to care for my health. Like self-care, but not in like the bubble bath sort of way. Like I have therapy today sort of way. And normally when I have these days, I'm out of the house all day. Like Madison's like, when I got up kind of late this morning, she was like, are you gonna be gone all day today? Because basically what I do is I'll get up, I'll go to yoga at 7 a.m. and then I have Pilates at 10 and then I'll go get a massage sometimes on my self-care days and then I have therapy and then I have my liver stuff. I've tried a bunch of different things through ClassPass. There's like cryotherapy, red light therapy, those sort of things. Later today I think I'm gonna do a co-pilot workout. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's an app where you can just basically like get a coach and work out anywhere. It's pretty cool because I hurt my shoulder rock climbing and I kind of stopped doing the Pilates I was doing on Friday are power former, so that adds weight to it and it's just not good for my shoulder right now until it's a little bit better. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll start that back, but in the meantime I've been doing co-pilot workouts, so I'll do that later today probably. Part of my self-care day is also treating myself to a coffee, so I'll get my reusable cup and we will go do that. And then I do take my car on Fridays just because my therapist is not super close to me and I'll just kind of bop around to do all of my errands at once. Where are all my cups? Oh no, there they are. Fun fact about me, My family has bought so many of these when they're around me. Like when we went to not Yosemite, Yellowstone trip with my parents last year, my dad didn't bring a freaking water cup. He didn't bring anything to put water in the whole time we were on this trip. And so he bought one of these, and I've also bought like 2 from me and Madison, but I've collected so many over the years from people buying them when they're around me and then not using them. So we'll use this today. Have you seen those TikToks about beverage goblins? People that are neurodivergent, they have to have multiple drinks with them at all times. That's me. That's always me. Okay, real quick before we go, I got 2 questions related to my car, so I'll answer them really quickly. Also, last time I talked in my car in a vlog, someone was like, don't be in your garage with your car on, you know what I mean? But the car is only on battery when it's in the garage, so there's no engine going. You don't have to worry about that. So one of the questions is, how is the Prius? Because I think we know by now that I love my car. 2 is, when are you getting an EV? The used tax credit is great. So I love my car, and it's not even paid off yet, to be honest with you. And I have no intention of getting rid of my Prius. And that is for a specific reason, mostly because I live in Texas and sprawl here is outrageous. And like I said, I work from home, so I rarely drive. Maybe I drive on the weekends or on my self-care days on Friday. I guess that's really kind of it, other than when I have to drive to see my family. So we're talking 6 hours Northeast Texas. We're talking 3 hours to Houston, and my sister 3 hours to Dallas. I can't make any of those drives without having to stop for at least 30 minutes to an hour to charge. And actually, I think between here and my parents' house, there's not even a charging station. I've checked. Me and Madison try to be really strategic and like really think through our finances when we make a big purchase like a car. And because of that, because we drive most of the time long distances, we decided that it makes sense for me to keep this car and for her to get an EV, because right now we're a 1-car household, which has worked fine because we both work from home. But her office is here in Austin, and so sometimes she does need to go into the office. Madison, I think, is going to get an EV. I think it will be soon, within the next year. And we basically decided that long term, I'll keep this car as long as I can. She'll get a sedan that is an EV, and then long term, I'll get an SUV that's a little more kid friendly that is a hybrid. But I think the plan currently is I will keep this car for at least a couple more years because I live in Texas, like I said. As far as how Pearl is doing, she's great, always in tip-top shape. Every time I try to take her to the dealership, people try to buy this car from me, and that's how I know it's a good one and that it's gonna last me a really long time. But she did get in an accident, I guess a few weeks ago now, unfortunately. It wasn't any major accident, but I did have to make an insurance claim. They covered getting all of it fixed, but the accident was super minor, but it resulted in like $5,000 worth of work, so maybe not that minor. Okay, let's go get coffee. I definitely wasn't intending to go to the coffee shop and work for 2.5 hours straight, but that's what happened. And then my computer died, and now I'm almost back home. Anyway, I have to go home to drop off my computer because it's dead, and then I only have like maybe 20 minutes at home before I have to head out to go to my therapy appointment, so we'll answer some more questions once I am at the house. I was talking about my Instagram story about how I think I've solved the mystery of why, when I was trying to figure out what the trees were in the backyard, why sometimes it was saying pecan, sometimes it was saying walnut, and it's because I think 2 of them are pecans. They do have pecans on them, so that's confirmed, but the other one is a black walnut. And if you remember that video, you can't grow stuff under black walnuts. They're toxic. I'm gonna link that video up here so that you can go watch my full in-depth situation when I found out. But someone specifically requested, can we see a pecan? Show us a pecan, I think is what it said actually. Yes, I'll show you one. I can't get that close to them. Well, I guess I kind of can. Okay, here we go. So this is a pecan tree. This is actually crazy. Let me show you. I mentioned this in a video recently, but this is a pecan tree. I see pecans on it. This is a pecan tree. I see pecans on it. That is what I'm pretty sure is a black walnut, and if you see, there's no green growing around it until you get over here, and that is because black walnuts are toxic, which is pretty unfortunate for someone who wants to garden and someone who, when they bought this house, really thought they had 3 pecan trees. Okay, I can't get you much closer, but I'll show you the pecan here. There they are. That's our little pecan babies doing their thing. They'll be ready around fall. It is a hot part of the day, huh, Miss Val? She's like, well, you're here though. I gotta come see what's up. I know, I'm going inside. You guys go hang out in the shade. It's that time of year where it is hitting 100 degrees. It's probably 100 degrees outside right now. Hey, what's the temperature outside?
In Austin, it's currently 92 degrees.
No, my car said it was 96 on my way back.
Like it's 102.
Oh, it feels like it's 102. Is that what that just said? Anyway, I'm gonna refill my water. That's kind of all I have time for because therapy starts in 20 minutes. I gotta get going. I made it back from therapy. Obviously. I didn't cry today, so that's good news. But my cousin and my sister are coming here for the weekend, and so they're gonna be here very soon, and I'm gonna wrap this up before they get here so that I don't have to worry about vlogging once they're here. So I took some of the questions that were on my story, wrote down the topics to cover, and we're gonna go over them really quickly. So there's a lot of questions about our solar setup. If you haven't seen, I did make a vlog about our install. I'll link it up here. I also will be talking about it a lot more on Instagram, TikTok, and here too. But if you've been following me for a while, you know I really don't like to discuss things until I've had like a lot of experience with them. That's kind of why the initial video was sharing the install and not a lot of other information, because so far all I can speak to is the install, and that's a purposeful thing. I don't want to speak on any other parts of this situation until I've had it for a couple months. And honestly, normally like I would just skip even showing you the install, because then I know that the questions that I'm like wanting to hold out on answering will come. But that's the answer. I plan on sitting down. I have been keeping track of all your questions. So your questions in my DMs, your questions in the last YouTube video about it, all of your questions, I have them in a spreadsheet, and I do plan to do a full Q&A video after I've had the solar setup for a couple months. So that is a plan with the solar setup. Any questions you have over that, always leave them in the comments. Like I said, I'm keeping track of them. Now we're basically just doing a sit down video. Okay, next questions. Oh, books I've been reading. If you guys didn't know, I started at the beginning of this year reading a book every month and listening to a book every month, and I think I've fallen a little bit short on the books I've physically read, but I've also overachieved on the books I've listened to, so I feel like that's a good trade-off. Recently, one that I read that was, or listened to actually, that was like really good is called Nature's Best Hope, and it talks a lot about habitat loss and how we can make up for that with our own yards and how it just makes sense to do that. And it talks about native plants and all that sort of stuff, which is obviously like what I'm really interested in learning about right now. So I listened to that book. That's a good one. That one, and then there was another one I was reading, a physical book called, what was it called? It's like Famous Trees of Texas, but it obviously goes about talking about their history and stuff. And I read a couple of those, and I started realizing like there's a real lack of intersectionalism within it. Like it's very much like the book about the history of trees in Texas, like ignored a lot of indigenous peoples and like the actual history of what happened. And then in this book also same thing, like they talk about invasive species, but they don't really address how that's a result of colonization in the Nature's Best Hope. And so that kind of was like a little bit of a letdown for me. So I wanted to start seeking out more books that have that intersectionality within them, or just like at the bare minimum address the actual history of like how things got to be the way they are. So I have listened to Braiding Sweetgrass before, but it's been like years, so I'm re-listening to that one now. Most of the other ones are like mental health books, honestly. Soon by Aja Barber, that's a really good one. Those are the ones that I've liked, that I've listened to. That I've read that I really love. Oh God, I don't remember what it's called. I'll have to put it on screen for you, but there's one about community building and specifically from an environmentalist perspective, which was amazing. That's the first book I read this year, and I highly, highly would recommend that to anyone wanting to get into community activism in the environmental space. Bicycling with Butterflies, a woman's journey who biked all the way, like biked the monarch migration from Mexico to Canada and back, and her whole experience with that. And she obviously talks a lot about the environmental impacts of what's impacting the butterflies, and I loved that book. I wish I could find more books that basically focus on environmental activism, but from a personal perspective. If you have any recommendations, please let me know, because I loved both of those books. The one I'm reading right now is called Disposable City. I guess a lot of it has to do with like the politics of trying to protect a city that is literally at risk of being underwater by the end of the century. So that's also a really good one. Oh, and one of the questions, I actually got this several times, which makes me very excited. Speaking of community activism, is how that's going for me. If you didn't know, one of my big goals for the year was to become more involved in my community, but in specifically community activism in the environmental space in Austin. And it's going really, really well. What I have found is that once you go to a few meetups that revolve around these things, you just find one person who's already in it and you befriend them, and then they introduce you to the rest of the world. That's what I've done with a couple of friends that I've made throughout doing this, but also some of the things you go to, like you'll just start seeing the same people over and over and over, and then like they just naturally become your friend. So that has happened to me. Like I joined the Zero Waste Block Leaders. I've been going to all the meetings about the Zilker Park vision plan. If you haven't heard me talk about that, I'll leave a link for that down below too. But Save Our Springs Alliance, like I now know like everybody who leads that organization. Yeah, I just think it's been really fulfilling, like actively feeling like you can make a difference where you live and meeting really cool people throughout that. I am an introvert, so at the beginning it was really scary, but now that I am familiar with most of the people, it's not so bad. Oh, I also am an ambassador for a clothing brand / the people who host clothing swaps in Austin called Cool to Care. And so same thing, like me and the owner of that business, Kaylin, like we're really cool now, so she's always inviting me to things, and it just takes putting yourself out there for like a little bit to get connected to your community. And I still have more to do. Like I am planning currently a potluck with a couple neighbors on our street, which is so exciting. That's not activism in the way that we typically think about it, but knowing your neighbors and connecting them and relating to each other and just building stronger communities in general, I truly believe is like the grassroots way to make a difference in the world, because we've become such an individualized culture, and in a lot of ways when things don't impact us personally, we're just hands off. So I think community is kind of the basis of solving that problem. So solar, books, community involvement, thrift finds. Someone specifically asked if I had any good thrift finds lately, and the answer is yes. I had an incredible one. This is what I'm saying. If you heard about this on TikTok, it's called Lucky Girl Syndrome, and this could be a very like privileged person's perspective. I recognize that, but I do feel like my luck in so many ways in my life, since I've become more of an aligned human this year, my luck is just skyrocketing. So I was talking to my sister the other day about her cats, and she has a balcony, a patio like at her apartment, and the cats always want to go out, so they're always begging to go out, but obviously we're reaching 100-degree temperatures here, so she can't just leave the door open for them. And so she found this thing that basically you can open up your window, insert this little like other window that has a door in the middle. So basically it's a cat door, but for apartment, like people who don't have anywhere to put one in their actual home, right? Like it can be modified. So she was telling me about it, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I should get one for Tippy. But the only window I have that has access to my patio is my sliding glass door. And she was like, no, they make them for sliding glass doors too. And I was like, oh shit. So I look it up, $200 to $500. And I was like, there's just no way. I'm just gonna count myself out for that one. Tippy's just gonna have to go outside when I go and not any other time. So Madison is scrolling on our buy nothing page. I'm not kidding. The next day, someone was giving one away that fits our sliding glass door. I don't keep it there full time because when it's in the door, you can't lock your door. But when Tippy is like crying, because he will, that's my office, right? This is the door he knows he goes out of. He will sit at that door while I'm trying to get work done and scream and scream and scream. So in those situations, I give in to the little terrorist and I'll put in this little door. So basically you just take this, that top part goes up and down to adjust to your door. So you take it, you pop it in here, and then that door at the bottom, he can come in and out of. And I don't have to worry about, obviously that's an energy efficiency thing. Like you don't have to worry about heat coming in and your cold air going out from leaving the door open so that the cats can go in and out. And I know that's not technically thrifted, but that is my best recent secondhand find. Well, I hope I answered enough of your questions. If you have any more for me, leave them in the comments. I'm going to probably edit this video really quickly so that I can get that over and done with before my cousin and my sister get here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. Make sure you check out my sponsor, Native, link at the top of the description. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.